Hey guys, this is Justin back with an engineer's perspective, and today I've got a video that's a little bit different and more specific to the channel name being engineer's perspective, because that's all this channel is just an engineer and his perspective. And this is going to come out on a Wednesday, I think, which is usually my tool day, but I'm just not feeling super motivated on any tools at the moment, or there's stuff that I'm in the works, like this mechanic here. But I'm feeling some fire building, because every once in a while I get up on this rant. So I'm gonna talk about what I think are some of the most important tools that are available to anyone in a working environment, be it an engineer or a pipe fitter or an electrician. And they're often forgotten or neglected, and that is the venerable, the ever humble book. So this is mostly going to be a rant, I think, but in my short experience so far, I've held several engineering titles: research engineer, process engineer, project engineer, production engineer. At this point, I technically would think my title would be infrastructure engineer, but mostly process engineering type work is what happens. And it depends on your age and your work environment. But from the people I've been around, is at some point around the age of 30, you as an engineer will begin to start believing that you know how everything goes. And I've had so many engineers just engineer from the hip, is what I say. You know, shoot from the hip, they'll engineer from the hip. And they'll do it in situations that just make absolutely no sense. Like, I've seen people engineer from the hip $100,000 decisions all the time. I've seen that so many times. And it's just like, hold on. What makes you think that the correct way to modify this stacked clarifier is to do X, Y, or Z, move the feed pipe there, do it that way? Because people just come up with ideas that sound good and they think make sense, and they're just like, oh yeah, settling is a function of time. Of course it is. Well, it's not. It's objectively not. Scientifically not. And what they don't do is they don't go back to their tools, the books. So that's what I want to talk about, is especially when you're an engineer, but also when you're a pipe fitter, an electrician. I can't speak to those as much because I don't do those things, but have your reference material. So like, keep that little handbook. Like, handbook is like my favorite word. I used to have an electronic version of a couple different handbooks, engineering handbooks, and like, they're just gold. But this is one of my favorite books right here. I've got my degree in chemical engineering, and I do a lot of my engineering in relation to these types of things. But you can see I've got all my reference tabs for the things that I look at frequently. But if you ever come up to a scenario where, you know, we want to change something or we want to do something, you know, use the knowledge you have from your life experiences in the industry. But if you've never designed a clarifier, as an example, or an evaporator or an agitator, stop, take a step back, find some good reference material. And this is my recommendation. So let's just take the clarifier example, because that one's pretty near and dear to my heart. Is the process for doing this is you should have at least one very detailed book about that subject. So in terms of clarification, or with a clarifier. So this is like a very detailed book on the clarifier. It'll get way down into the weeds on this book. So you should have one that's very detailed, one source that's very detailed, one that's more general. This is Perry's Chemical Engineer's Handbook. It's like the Bible of chemical engineering. Anything that can be made, so like plastic, steel rolling, any chemical, any product, anything that can be made, there is something about it in this book. So this is a great place to start. So this is like a general reference book, and some things are more detailed. So you have something that's a little bit more general reference, you have something that's very detailed reference, and they need to match roughly, but pretty closely. They need to match, and very importantly, you need to confirm what these are saying with real life, because the situations and the data that are going to be in these books probably is not going to match perfectly with your situation. That's just how it works. For agitation, you're not going to have the exact, vessel to impeller diameter ratios and the exact style of impeller that's going to be in these books probably. Or clarifiers, it's not going to be just a standard clarifier. It's going to be some goofy multiple feed stacked thing. So you have two literature sources that match each other, and then you need an industrial source. So like in the sugar industry, there's a lot of really good quality sugar handbooks. So I'd match these two with that one. And that one is directly applied to the sugar industry. And then you can kind of confirm what happens in the real world to what happens in literature. And from that, you can build a really solid fundamental understanding of what you're doing and execute a solution, design and execute a solution. And so if you don't have, say, like the sugar book, then, if there's somebody who's been at your plant for 40 years, and knows, hey, we've tried these 5 things and this is what didn't work, yada, yada. And that can be your industrial knowledge. Or if you have your own knowledge base, if you've worked a lot with heat exchangers or something. But that's the process, is when you come up against a problem and you probably don't know and you probably have forgotten, take out your tools, take out your books, please. I have seen this done by engineers that are 30 and engineers that are nearing 60 where they needed to do this. How many times this has happened is just ridiculous. And I'm young and out of school, so this is what comes into my mind is, well, what does the book say? And this has been so fruitful for me. So I just felt like sharing and ranting a little bit when people engineer from the hip. Just don't do it. Like if you need an answer to a solution in 10 seconds, it better be a small decision. Because if it's a big decision, you got to step back. So you have time to consult the literature. So there's 2 of my favorite engineering books. Here's another great one that I use a lot. It's a process controls book. And then something that's more relevant to the channel is this book. So Knife Engineering by Dr. Laren Thomas, who does the knifesteelnerds.com. So when I'm making a video about something, or if I decide to get into an argument with somebody on Facebook, I go to my tools. This book right here, and his website, and also there's places like scienceofsharp.com, that's another place. But you can see I've got it all tabbed up. See that? Because I reference it all the time. So, so I take out my tools, I go here, I go to his website, I go to Science of Sharp, I go to Cedric and Ada, I go to Super Still Steve, Outpost 76. Who am I forgetting? People like that. Anyways, and I confirm the science and my own knowledge, because this is something I've got quite a bit of knowledge on from my own experiences. And I can compare the literature and the websites and the YouTube videos and my own experience to come up with the true thing as I see it. Use your tools, use your literature. Don't be afraid. Don't think people might think you're dumb if you have to pull out the book. You don't know if you've forgotten how it really works. That happens a lot, where you think, oh, this is how you design X, Y, or Z, but you're like, oh yeah, I actually forgot, important but some kind of minute detail A and B. And yeah, you just Just do it, guys. Trust me. The fruit that this will bear for you, especially in an engineering environment in the process industries, is indescribable. I've found so much success from being able to access this knowledge. Engineer's Toolbox is a great resource also, by the way, website. So that's what I've got there. Yeah, kind of different, but we like to talk about the fun tools. I like to talk about the fun tools, the charge, all those good things, but these are the tools that I use on a regular basis to get things done. So I recommend that you do as well. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Have a good one, guys. Bye.